Turn our attention to the situation in Nigeria now, where, of course, in the commercial hub of Lagos, unrest has continued to spread. Witnesses say the defense force opened fire on protesters, killing at least 12 of them on Tuesday. The military has denied responsibility for the deaths, dismissing reports of the incident as fake news. But the protests against police brutality have rocked Nigeria for weeks now and have mushroomed into a broader movement for change. The riots pose a major challenge to the Nigerian government, which has since disbanded the notorious police unit that's known as the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Ben Akede is a reporter with Nigerian News Outlet, News Central. He joins us now live from the city of Lagos for more. Ben, thanks very much for making time for us here on the AM Report in South Africa. Hope you're well, keeping safe at this moment. Often when we speak to colleagues in the industry, even though it is beyond our borders, we try to get a sense of how moments like this might stifle your work. How would you rate the level of media freedom as you try to reflect to not only your countrymen, but certainly the rest of the world, what's happening in Nigeria?
Thank you for having me. Media freedom in Nigeria has always been a matter of concern for media practitioners here in Nigeria, and the occurrence, the happenings so far leading up until now in the past 2 weeks only has amplified that fact that media freedom is still something that needs to be looked into, particularly from what happened 2 days ago when the protesters were engaged by officers of the Nigerian army. You could tell clearly that men of the press were not exactly allowed to do their job. Leading even up until yesterday, it's been quite difficult for media practitioners like us to move around. There's not so much respect for men of the press, but then the protesters actually do respect media practitioners, giving us freedom to do what it is that we are supposed to do or that we are meant to do. The basic challenge is with the military and sometimes the government.
Yeah, and of course the situation on Tuesday overnight is what many people would describe as the catalyst that really put this moment on the international news agenda. How would you evaluate the situation as we speak now? Is the volatility still as intense as the kind of scenes we're seeing on Tuesday?
Oh, no. As at today, there's a lot of calm and rest for now. Tuesday was really quite volatile. Wednesday was more or less the peak, with while the curfew that was initiated from 4 p.m. on Tuesday, 24-hour curfew started. As at Wednesday, we had, well, this happens more often than not when you have unrest in many countries. There were thugs and touts taking over the streets, and they started looting different stores and shopping malls and complexes, and some even tried to break into homes. But as the day went on, the streets were being lined by mobile police officers and officers of the Nigerian army as well. They were able to restore some level of normalcy back to the streets and adjoining communities. As at this morning, I do not think I have heard any single gunshot. But up until yesterday, you could still hear sporadic shootings in some places, and some of the videos that you may have seen online, some still happened up until yesterday evening. But as at now, while we speak, everything seems calm and normal. Although there's a 72-hour lockdown in the city of Lagos, which probably would end on Friday evening. But as at now, like I mentioned, everything seems calm and normal.
It's interesting, you actually allude to gunshots being sounded during the protest. Was that like an ordinary, normal occurrence at the height of the unrest? I mean, did you just expect to hear gunshots because of what was happening on the ground?
Well, it's as at the time of the protest, if that's what you're asking, I didn't get that question very clearly. Could you please repeat that? Sure.
I'm just referring to just how laissez-faire you mentioned the fact that you weren't hearing gunshots. It suggests to me in South Africa that, gunshots were almost a normal occurrence during the protest. Is that an accurate reading of the situation, would you say?
Oh, no. During the protest had lasted for about 14 days before, what happened on Tuesday, and there were no gunshots. As a matter of fact, the protest was peaceful. It had been peaceful, especially at the Lekki Toll Plaza, which was the site of, the clash between the police. Well, I wouldn't even call it a clash. Basically, the confrontation of the protesters by the police. There were no gunshots. It was peaceful. It was orderly. It was very organized. As a matter of fact, it was, arguably the most organized protest Nigeria has seen. Well, in my lifetime anyway. So it was quite surprising to see that the protesters were engaged and that live rounds of ammunition were being fired. There were no gunshots. It has completely been peaceful up until Tuesday. But then after Tuesday's incident, gunshots could be heard. That now became almost a normal thing to hear around the Lekki area of Lagos. There were gunshots on Tuesday. There were also gunshots on Wednesday, and a lot of people saw a lot of that on social media. And if you live around the Lekki area, Lekki axis, you could also hear some of those sporadic shootings as well. But again, it's not normal to have gunshots during a peaceful protest.
Right. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of some of the demonstrations that were held in solidarity with Nigerians where you're at here in South Africa. We essentially had parallel demonstrations in our capital in Pretoria. There were other demonstrations in a different region called the Western Cape. A lot of the sentiment that was expressed at that time was frustration directed particularly to the President Muhammadu Buhari. Young people feeling that there aren't enough opportunities for them in Nigeria. To what extent does that reflect the sentiment on the ground where you're at? Is a lot of that frustration also directly pinpointed at the foot of the President, so to speak?
Yes, it is. To be honest, I was out on that Tuesday, and also being a journalist, I spoke to some of the protesters, not at Lekki, but in another location called Diola Odeku, is the heart of Victoria Island, still in Lagos. And a lot of young people there had the same frustration, claiming that there are no opportunities made available for them. That there's so many things they expect of the president, which he has not delivered yet. And then more of the frustration was coming from the fact that the president still hadn't addressed the lot of the Nigerians. He only addressed Nigerians once, and that was at the early stages of the protest. But while the protest continued to linger on and to last longer, we hadn't heard directly from the president. So yeah, there was and there still is a lot of frustration from particularly the young people. Bearing in mind that Nigeria is a youthful population, basically, with, according to statistics, Nigeria has about 70% of its population being a youthful population. So it will be expected that most of the policies, a lot of things that should be done, should center around the youth and how they can actually achieve progress. Sadly, that may not be the case at the moment, and that's why there's a lot of frustration amongst the younger generation.
Very quickly, Ben, before we let you go, where to from here? You already mentioned the situation is relatively calm. I don't imagine this means the end of this demonstration.
Well, some of the organizers of the demonstration have come to say that they still intend to come out to continue their protest out of frustration from the fact that they were being shot at while peacefully protesting, and that their points, their agenda haven't been met. There was a 5-for-5 agenda. Several things have been laid at the foot of the president, or at the feet of the president, requesting him to do certain things, not just ending the police, the arm of the police called SAS, that's a Special Anti-Robbery Squad, but also asking that the police be completely reformed, that they be properly paid and their welfare properly taken care of, that certain people in the government resign, several requests that the protesters have made. They've said that some of them have said that they will continue their protests even after the lockdown has been lifted. Well, we wait to see if that's going to happen. For now, like I said, there's still a lot of calm and peace, and we wait to see if normalcy will be restored. But then everybody is still on high alert, just in case the protesters decide to resume protest again, being the fact that all of their demands haven't been met just yet. But for now, I guess it's still fingers crossed for everybody, and looking to see what happens beyond the 72 hours law.
Absolutely, and we're also very keen to see how things pan out, watching the situation quite closely from here in South Africa. Thanks very much for your time and for giving us an update this morning. Ben Akede is a journalist working with news agency News Central, joining us live there from the city of Lagos.